So our objective today is going to be essentially placing a custom ramp object in this little test course we have. Not much to it. And we're going to do that using the mdush object, which is it's the ramps from like Mario Circuit, and there's probably some others which I just can't think of. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. Wondering why I say we're going to use the mdush object? It's because it has its own collision file, which isn't common for like all objects in the game. Sites I recommend just to check like what objects kind of have what properties, such as like animation or effects associated with them. You can use the KMP object query, which I'll link, as long as the alongside the object page from Talkdom, the wiki, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So if you look up mdush here, we can see it's a small jump ramp from Mario Circuit, Moo Meadows. It has the model file and a collision file. So keep that in mind, and we'll move on. We're going to be using SketchUp for this, just because it's one I'm sure most people are familiar with, just because of the ease of access. One thing to note about objects, most of them start from this origin point, so you'll be drawing from there, which is kind of opposite from course models, because you want to start above the origin. And you can check kind of where objects actually start by extracting them, which I'll cover in a different video, because it's not too bad to do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a quick ramp, nothing like insane, and then we'll move on to basically putting it into Roblox and then putting it in the game. So I'll speed through this, it'll be real quick. So it's done very quickly, nothing complicated, just a ramp, boost panel, some metal. You know the drill. So SketchUp, best way to actually do this is using an Object Explorer plugin. This is the one I use. I can link this if needed. I can't remember where I got it from, but I'm sure a Google search will help out. So we're going to export as an OBJ. Then we're going to go on FBX converter, which you also need to Google for because it's kind of difficult to find this thing for some reason. You'll find it though. Find that file. We're going to convert it to FBX. Going to convert it to DAE, which is what we use for Roblox, just like so. And then what we do is we open Roblox, this, and we're going to do new, new archives, VRes resource pack, do import model, and we're going to import the ramp we just made, which is this. Wouldn't worry too much about these settings. If you want a reference though, wiki page with this title, which I'll link, which has some ideal settings for importing, but you may need to toy around with it and such. So here's our ramp, as you can see right now. It's untextured. But the first thing we want to do is rename MDLO properly. This is so the game doesn't crash. So I have a reference here. This is an mdush from the actual game. Mdush being the ramp, of course. And you can see the MDLO is called mdush, like that. So you want to match that format, and this goes for any object. Then that's good. So then we can just save it. Cool. So now we want to import textures. So file, import. We'll just do one at a time because there's not many. This is the one we had in SketchUp, and it's looking normal. And that's actually kind of it for the basics of importing these models, I suppose. But there's a few things to note. For example, for relevant texture patterns and animations, these two, you would want to rename this package, I guess, to the name of the model rather than course, which is what you'll use for the course model. It makes sense when you think about it. So it would be mdush, and for the texture animations it would also be mdush. So our next thing to do is do do the KCL for this because obviously it's needed. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna modify this model. I'd recommend instead making a backup of it and then using that for your KCL. But I'm just gonna modify this because it's easier. Move all the textures here. We want this to be just a flip ramp. So this is my format. Well, it's not my format personally, but it's the one I use. Underscore XX being the type, the last few numbers being the variant. We'll just make it a trick. Keep it real simple. Add the wall. Cool. I'm just going to export it. Now we're just going to convert it into a KCL file using Weems tools, SES tools, which you've likely been using for your course model anyway. So now what we do is we access a SES file, which we've been using. We want to import these files required by the object query. This one we need to rename to mdush.kcl. That's because it follows what is on here. Now we have them all. I'm using SES Explorer for this, but you can use Roblox or any other software you find better. It's just kind of like muscle memory at this point. So then the last thing we need to do is add it into the KMP for the course. We're going to go to the object section in KMP Cloud. You can also do this in Lorenzi's. It's whatever you prefer. It's going to be named to mdush. Get it there. Place it down. I know this is going to be 10,000. Save it. So we have it. And we just replace KMP with the one we just made. That's all the files in there. There it is. A custom little mdush object. Nothing extravagant or anything, but functional, sure. And that's essentially it. And this can be done for like the vast majority of objects in the game. Some of them I haven't been able to figure out how to custom without crashing, essentially. One example is the fire bubbles from Bowser Castle Free. I think it's something to do with the effects, but I'm sure someone more experienced could tell you. Anyway, that's kind of it. If you have any suggestions on what I should cover, to the best of my knowledge, I'd love to hear it. I hope this has been helpful. Any questions, I'll try answer. Thanks a bundle. Bye.